All right. You're back.
We're back, baby.
And you've grown.
A little bit.
Grow has grown. Summitt Hogue, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for having me back, man. Your office is unbelievable, dude.
Yeah.
Walking in here, it's like, things are rocking and rolling around here too.
We're all becoming real companies now, right?
Just out there fighting and scrapping tooth and nail and making it,
Yeah. So y'all moved into a new office, right?
Yeah.
Lincoln Center.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lincoln Center. That's a wonderful development, man. They did really well with that. So great locations, good space.
Yeah, that's awesome. How much footage did y'all take?
Just under 4,000 square feet. Because
So
there's 9 of us now, so it's we got the bullpen area with the young guys, and then all the offices along the window, and got a couple open offices on the window. These guys have got a battle to get into, kind of thing.
Yeah,
and it's exciting. It's funny. Yesterday, I took up to the office. My wife's making me clean out my closet, and I grabbed these old shoes. And these were those shoes that right when you start your career, like you're broke, you got one pair of nice shoes, and you just wear them every day, right?
Yeah.
In the Rubicon days, like back when I'm pounding the streets in GSW, there's holes in the bottoms of them. The heels are like worn all the way up the side, from dragging my feet in those concrete truck courts. So she was like, throw those away. You're never wearing those again. I was like, you have no idea what those shoes mean to me.
Yeah.
So I took them up to the office and I put them in the bullpen. I said, this right here, this is what grind looks like.
Yeah.
So you're sitting out here, you want to get an office over there?
Yeah.
I want to see holes in your shoes. Let's go.
Yeah. That's what it's funny. Whenever I was like, okay, I'm going to go buy buildings, I took my shoes and I tied them up and I went and threw them on Turner's desk. I was like, good luck, man. That's what you need to strive for. And I was like, I'm going to go buy buildings.
Yeah.
So that's cool. That's significant though, right? That's like, hey man, this is, nothing comes without just time and market, right? Or just, you got to just go do it. It doesn't just happen. And that's the badge of honor of it all. So
that's it, man.
So you got 9 people now. Is that 9 brokers or is there's okay? So,
and then Andressa, who just kind of is a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, support staff.
Yeah, she does it all.
I saw you hired Kirby's son, huh?
Yeah,
that's cool.
Drew Hocut, man, he's a stud. He asks really good questions. He's eager to learn. He's taking good notes, and it is truly trial by fire. It's kind of how I believe this business needs to be taught.
Yeah,
it's all right, man. Here's an opportunity. Now go make it happen.
Yeah.
And pick up the phone. You're going to say some dumb things and you're going to make some mistakes, but you're going to get off that call and you're going to have battle scars going into the next one and know what you're supposed to say. And I'm going to be sitting here keeping the ball between the bumpers, but you got to go make it happen. So he's been in there banging cold calls. I'll sit with him and he'll freeze, you know what I mean? Just like we all used to do.
Yeah.
He's just, oh man, I'll get better on the next one. I'll get better on the next one. He just has that. I knew that's the kind of kid he is, right? Yeah. He's the kind of kid that's like, you knock him down, he's getting back up. You can knock him down 1,000 times, he's getting back up.
Yeah.
And so it's exciting to have him in there. And, when I was talking to Coach McGuire and he was saying, who's the guy, right, that you think could battle through something like this? And Drew was the leader of the Dead Rabbits.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're the leader of the Dead Rabbits, that's all I need to know.
Yeah.
And he's off to the races, man. Kirby's not super excited, but he is, but he isn't, because he's got 1 semester left before he graduates and gets his master's. And he just told Kirby, he's like, I don't know if I'm gonna finish, but I'm gonna do it here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just kind of funny. I was like, I promised Kirby that he would get his master's, but he's having so much fun banging the phones, wanting to make money. He's like, I don't need this. I'm like, dude, you got to get it. You got to get it and just do it. You can do it at the office if you're going to stay here, but just make sure you finish your master's, get that done, and then we can roll. But it's funny. He's a good kid, man. He's awesome.
That's awesome. What, so, I guess And when you pitch like a guy coming over right out of college, right? Like you're like, hey, we hunt whales over here.
Yeah.
I mean, y'all don't. If there ain't 6 digits in the square footage, y'all probably ain't doing it.
That's so yes and no. I mean, all the new guys. I mean, when we have deals come in that are like right now, Drew's working on a 40,000 square foot deal in New Jersey. Right. So
that's a real ass deal though, man.
Oh yeah.
That is
That's a big number.
$1,650 a foot.
Oh,
you know what I mean? So
God.
It's material.
Right. So it's a company out of Houston that, I had talked to in the past, got into a jam, and they're like, hey, we've got a, and it's, it's a 1-year deal, 40,000, but it could grow. So, those are the kind of deals where it's like, all right, Drew, go help me solve this problem.
Yeah.
Go help me figure this out. So you call the brokers and just dig into that market and go find every option that we have and throw it into lease up. And we're going to present it to the client and just say, look, this is what we got. These are our options. And, let it rip from there. So like the young guys are working on all those deals. I have a legacy client from the GSW Pound in the Streets days. It's called De La Fontaine. And the only way I won that deal was because he had hired Corby, but he thought I was Corby when I walked in. And so we start chopping it up, and I'm like, dude, this guy's awesome. It was a great conversation. He realizes at the end, like, oh, wait, you're not Corby. No, I'm with Rubicon. My name's Summitt. You know what I mean? But we had already established a relationship, and then I take him to a Josh Abbott concert that weekend, and it was done after that. He was like, oh, man.
This is my guy.
Yeah. And then, so anyway, now I've done, 6 or 8 deals with them around the country. They're all small 20,000 square foot manufacturing buildings, but they're signing 10-year leases. So,
yeah,
so I got those guys helping me, stand up a De La Fontaine operation in Denver and Phoenix. And, so they're not huge deals, but yeah, those are still good, reps for these guys to learn and figure things out and go get deals done.
Well, that's cool because you've got such an established book of business now that you have a true brokerage business where you can hand out those things, right? So that's awesome. So that definitely helps with recruiting, I would think.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah, when you can tell guys, look, I've got deals you can work on. I've got reps you can get. You got to go make it happen, and you got to go dig up your own stuff too. Like this isn't a charity situation, but I will make sure. My promise to you is I'll make sure that you get the reps that you need, and I will be there to teach you as much as possible. But you got to be willing to take the notes, put in the time, put in the effort. And if I get there and you're not there, don't even come back. Right? Yeah. If I leave and you left before me, then don't come back, because that's not how this is going to go. You're going to be there early. You're going to stay late. You're going to do what you need to be doing. I'm going to line it all out for you, and you're going to go make it happen.
Yeah.
That is how you become a broker that's well chasing kind of deal, right? And if you want to be mediocre, you can go to one of these other shops where you just sit at a cubicle and do your thing, right? But that's not what we do. So
yeah, that's awesome. 9 guys. You ever going to open another office anywhere? Do you need to?
No, I don't need to. Yeah. I thought about that a couple times. There's just really no need to. I mean, these guys are. Actually, one of the guys is in San Diego, but he comes in for a week out of every month. But
yeah.
And then another one of our guys, one of my best friends, but they're going through some tough stuff personally, and their daughter is at St. Jude in Memphis, so he's basically living in Memphis. We're hoping they come back sooner rather than later, but for now it's he's kind of working from home. So
yeah,
we just bought the Owl Labs has this conference thing you set up in the middle of the conference room, and it can see everybody, and you connect it to the TV, and we kind of set it up where we can have our meetings where the guys that aren't in the office can still basically feel like they're in the Monday morning meeting together with everybody. Yeah. So really, we're kind of getting to a point now where it doesn't matter if you're in the office or not, or maybe you're touring buildings in LA, you can still hop on the Monday morning meeting and be in the room with everybody. So
that was the thing we were at in Lano's office. It was really cool.
Yeah. The Owl Labs thing.
It's called the Owl Labs.
Yeah. That was, we had a meeting in someone's office, and somebody had to call in on it, and it's pretty cool setup.
Yeah. It'll zoom in on who's talking and then zoom back out. So it's 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 a pretty cool deal.
Well, so it's funny. I was sitting there. My latest podcast flavor is quarterly earnings calls. And I was listening to Prologis' quarterly earnings call, and that's when I texted you. And I was like, because they started talking about 3PLs a lot, and I was like, oh man, this is just how the effects of what's going on in the market and stuff, and is working through 3PLs. And so I was like, oh, this would be a great thing to just talk to Summitt about. So I was like, oh, let's do another episode. So like, what's the state of the market in the 3PL world right now?
Great question. So it's kind of across the board. We've got some guys that are desperately trying to sublease space. I mean, we're fighting tooth and nail, diving into who the best SIOR brokers in these markets are, partnering with them, getting them listed, and then trying to go out and find anything we can possibly get our hands on to slam in those buildings. But then we got other guys who are, hey, we just, that are a guy we just in Reno, we just signed for 10 years on 180,000 square feet. So it's really all over the place. I mean, those guys, there's guys that are booming and growing, and guys that are struggling. So a lot of it's tied to China, right? If you have a ton of customers that are manufacturing in China, you're probably getting smoked right now.
Yeah.
And if your customer base is largely manufacturing in the US or India or some of these other countries, then you're going to be just fine. But we are seeing the West Coast getting torched, because if you have a strong operation on the West Coast, it was probably largely tied to China. If you have a large operation on the East Coast, you probably are bringing stuff in from some of these other countries that aren't being hit so hard, right? So markets like Savannah and Charleston and New York, New Jersey, some of those markets are still staying, stronger than the West Coast, because LA is getting torched.
What was it in the call with Prologis? They were talking about their vacancy.
Yeah, most of their US the rental rate kind of coming off is all Inland Empire focused.
Yeah.
It outweighed the rest of their global portfolio. I should have
printed my little stat sheet up on it.
LA is getting torched, man. And the 3PLs that are in LA, I don't know any of them that are full by any means. I mean, there's we've had to help guys negotiate buyouts out there, consolidating buildings down to one. It's pretty tough.
It was it might have had to do with absorption. Was it absorption, or they had Prologis' portfolio moved 1.5 points, right? But if you took out the Inland Empire, it was only 50 basis points.
Yeah.
Because that was where the concentration was.
So think about this. Markets like Reno and Vegas and Salt Lake and Phoenix, all of those cities exploded when LA got too expensive. So LA got to a point where you're paying $1.75 a foot a month, and and you were battling with 10 other people to try to get that building, right? It got that crazy. And then it snapped back, but it had so far to go because it had gotten so high. I mean, so many companies flooded out of the Inland Empire and went to Phoenix and went to Reno and went to Vegas. And then those markets started going, wow, our demand is just through the roof. So let's just start building and building and building and building. Phoenix is unbelievably overbuilt.
Really?
Unbelievably overbuilt. Reno, overbuilt. If you got a bomber in Reno, you're sucking wind, because there is zero demand in Reno for big box stuff. So that 160 or 180 that we did out there, I mean,
did you just get your knife out?
I mean, just an absolute, one for the record books. I've never got that much free rent ever.
Oh, that feels so good.
We've never been able to get a deal like that. I mean, it was that good. So, those West Coast markets that were thriving when LA was too expensive. Now that LA is so bad, everybody that wants West Coast, if you want West Coast, you can easily get into LA. So Reno and Phoenix and those markets are just getting torched.
Oof.
I think it was their global rental portfolio had increased 2.5%, but when they factored in Inland Empire, dipped to 2%. That's what the stat was. It was something like,
it was something just very dramatic. Like Inland Empire just took a dump on.
They factored it in, and the numbers globally just got hammered. That's how big of a deficit that market's running right now.
It's a big market.
And is that all just related to port tariffs?
Yeah,
everything,
because that's the closest port to China. So if things with China aren't good, LA is going to get torched.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of the nature of it.
So if I'm looking for 300,000 feet in the Inland Empire, what was I paying 2 years ago, and what can I pay today?
Man, 2 years ago, depending on what, like, you're probably around $1.50.
$1.50
for 300,000, maybe $1.50.
18 net on 300.
Now you can get a building out there for 90 cents gross.
Oh no,
300,000 square feet. Yeah,
no.
Yeah, there's subleases out there that we've seen people marketing for even less than that, but they're just trying to get anything that they can, trying to go be a bottom feeder and get whatever they can get to offset some of that cost. I mean, the new development out there, they're not going to be able to do that deal. But like the guys that have, this is why in markets like that, and in Reno, like the guy that the 2024, 2025 built building can't make you that deal.
No.
But the guy who's got a 2011, 2012 built building that they've never sold and they got a lower cost basis, they can undercut the market and still make money. They were making money at 40 cents a foot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they're just fine. So those are the guys as a tenant rep, like you got to go look through all of the landlords and understand when they bought it, what's their basis in it, or at least get close to kind of having an idea. So you know that this guy can make a deal and this guy can't. And then you go throw the gloves off and start swinging.
So new developments can't make that cut, but what if it's a new development by just a Blackstone or somebody like that? Can they just globally absorb taking a haircut? Are you seeing any flex in those kind of landlords?
You know, the best deals that we've gotten recently have all been Blackstone and Prologis.
Yeah.
But they've all been second, third generation buildings, not any of the new stuff.
Yeah.
Like look at Prologis in Arlington. I mean, those buildings on New York Avenue are right in that area.
Yeah.
I mean, those have been vacant for 2 years or at least 18 months.
Yeah.
And they're still asking, and maybe they made one deal there, but they're in like the high 7s, low 8s. Well, I just did 2 deals in that area, well below $5 a foot. So I don't know how you think you're going to get $8 when there's other landlords. They're lower basis, right? Because they can make those deals. But I mean, I don't know how you compete with guys that are willing to do, 2013 pricing, 2015 pricing for a 150,000 foot warehouse. You know what I mean? So
that's not good.
Yeah, what's Dallas like on the big box side? Are things starting to pick up there, or are they still sucking wind?
Big box side, it's still, you got pick of the litter. It depends where you want to be, right? Like I've been working on a 300 and he wants to be around Louisville, like that's tough.
That's
tough.
Expensive.
It's tough. You're not finding anybody up there that's willing to wheel and deal, but it started in Denton. And in Denton, it was pick of the litter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you can go to Forney, pick of the litter. So it just kind of depends what part of DFW you're looking at.
Gotcha. What kind of 3PL users are expanding right now?
A lot of the fulfillment guys are doing pretty well. It's those big box B2B guys that, have a 500,000 square foot building and they maybe had, 10 customers in there and 4 of those customers have completely drawn back what they normally do. Those guys are getting hurt because they're carrying such a big load of space.
Yeah.
The fulfillment guys will have 30 customers, 40 customers in a 150,000 foot building. So if they have 10, 12 customers that really dial back, they still have some volume, right? They're still okay. And maybe it's not leaving them with as big of a gap as it does the big box B2B guys. So, all the buildings that we're trying to sublease are B2B warehousing operators, and the guys that we're signing long-term leases on right now are all fulfillment operators.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense. They're diversified.
Yeah. I mean,
to a degree,
they
right?
have more
got larger
customers.
customer base.
Yeah.
You're more diversified.
Right.
So,
like I think if you looked at it, I think probably 10 out of the 15 deals that we've done over the last 5 months, fulfillment operators. So those guys are doing well.
Yeah. So on the tariffs, if a 3PL's a Chinese attached to tariff, are they even making site selections right now, or are they making site rejections? I don't know.
It's actually pretty interesting. This is kind of a wild situation. So if it's a Chinese national that's bringing in the product and running the warehousing and distribution, like these Chinese 3PLs, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like all those guys are tied to the manufacturing of the products that's going in their buildings anyways. So what those guys do is, and it's not a secret, like they go, traditionally reported that this was a $10 product when they brought it in, and now they just report that it's a $5 product when they brought it in.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that made it.
Yeah.
So they're just dodging tariffs by just dropping the price. They pay, like they have to show the invoice, right? So they made the product.
Yeah.
So they just drop their manufacturing price by half and it offsets the tariff, and then they just keep rolling. So they're paying tariffs, but their P&L doesn't change a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of those Chinese people are doing to get out to just get around it. So some people are and some people aren't doing that, but
what was the law we were talking about the other day?
Oh, it was
Chinese
in Texas. If you're a foreign national, you can't own real estate after a certain period of time. I think it's September of this year. And then you're allegedly not allowed to sign longer than a 1-year lease if you're a foreign national.
Wow.
In the state of Texas. This is not national.
Yeah, but no, that's great.
Texas.
That's great. That'll help American businesses.
Yeah. It's weird on the lease component, but I totally understand the ownership.
But they're coming in and signing long-term leases and then just walking away in some cases because they just don't, like, they don't have, you got my security deposit, and that's all Chinese money. They don't care, right?
Yeah.
They're funded by their government, right?
Yeah.
So they can come in and lose everything, and it's like, oh, all right, well, the government gave me all that money anyways. So it's probably smart to protect against what the Chinese government can actually fund and do to control real estate in the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen an increase or decrease in the need for space at ports of entry?
It depends what port it is.
Okay.
Savannah's picking up big time. Charleston, all those East Coast ports are doing well. Houston has started booming too.
Really?
I think you're going to see Houston do really, really well through a lot of this.
Where's that? So there's a girl, her name's Corinne. She leases this office for her, and we're really good friends with her. She's down the hall, but she's doing a development at the port of Mobile. I don't know if you...
East Coast ports and South, any of these ports that are in the Gulf, I think they're going to do well.
Yeah. What's she building? Like
she's building...
But that's got to be a cheap real estate and everything. So,
it's super cheap.
It can only go up in Mobile, Alabama, but you do see a lot of stuff. A lot of the hazardous 3PLs are in Alabama for some reason. They got a lot of space over in that area. Georgia, Alabama.
I just shoved them over there because nobody wanted to be anywhere else.
I guess they're just like, look, take that through that little port over there.
Yeah.
But
she's building a 300.
A 400.
Yeah, she's putting almost 1 million feet up.
Yeah.
And she's got a ton of power.
Yeah. Like data center.
Well, the data center stuff's going crazy.
Yeah.
So we're doing deals now with data center suppliers, just guys that are coming in saying, "Hey,
I need to store.
We need 150. Right, we need 150,000 square feet to just store
components,
coils and stuff like that."
That's wild.
So my father-in-law was telling me this morning before I was leaving the house. They're there, and he was like, they just passed some data center law like yesterday in Texas, where like you have to provide like 25% of your own power. I don't know. It sounded like it would wildly change the landscape for Texas data centers, like in a bad way. I can't remember what it was. So don't. Anyways, what about inland ports? Or anybody is anybody trying to, is that a thing right now? Does that matter?
I mean, everybody's still using the inland ports like Dallas, obviously UP and BNSF. Yeah, those are still doing really well. I mean, anytime you have a building near one of those, you're going to be all right. But yeah, I mean, right now it's all about, because you have pick of the litter, it's more about where can I set up my building with the best access to labor? Because now you can pick all of these things. Used to it was like, where are the open buildings, and let's just weigh the bad against the good. Now it's like, here are all the things that I got to have, and we can go get it for you. Because we can go run a report on labor studies, crime studies, all of those types of things and then guys just kind of have pick of the litter, and maybe they're using more BNSF than UP. All right, let's go to Alliance. It's pretty easy today to go find something.
And foreign trade zones, are those a conversation right now any more than usual, or is that just kind of...
It 10x'd for 3 months, and then, because everybody wanted bonded space.
Yeah.
You can't just go set up a bonded operation. I mean, those things take time. You got to hire a consultant. You get out there. You have to train all your people.
Wait a second. Can you explain what a bonded warehouse is?
We had a guy come to us. He said, I need 100,000 feet of this like now in Dallas. And we had no idea what it was.
Yeah, so bonded and foreign trade zone are very similar. It's tax deferred.
It's just tax
duty deferred.
Okay.
But the problem with the difference in bonded, one of the differences in bonded is if you bring it into a bonded warehouse and the tariff at that point in time is 145%, like when it goes out, you're paying 145%. You're only deferring what it is when you brought it in. So if he drops it to 10,
you're smoked.
You brought it into a bonded warehouse, you're paying 145.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So that's why everybody goes, wait. Maybe we don't want bonded because it's moving so much.
Yeah.
It might work in your favor if it goes higher, but it's going to work against you if they reach a trade deal in a week and your stuff's sitting in there, you're getting hit and your competitors aren't. You know what I mean? That didn't bring it in.
Well, what happens? Does the bond pay the difference if it's the inverse? Is that
no? It's because
when I hear bond, I think of like a construction bond. It's like, hey, we're bonding this deal where everything blows through.
No, it's there's actually different types of bonds too, for like how flexible your bond is for your building. And I've got some guys that have gone and gotten the highest level where they have the most flexibility, and they get a little bit more leeway on stuff like that. But I mean, it used to take 3 months if you hired a good consultant to hammer it out, 3 to 4 months. And now it's, because there's such high demand. I mean, we even got some guys that were like, look, you can get in line, and if I get to you this year, you're lucky.
Yeah.
And in that case, it just defeats the purpose because you're just too late.
Yeah.
But we had some guys that got out ahead of it. They saw it coming and they got bonded. And one of the guys in LA, he had 15,000 square feet left in his building of bonded space. Okay. This is him telling me this, so I don't know if this is true or not, but he said he had well over like 50 companies that were bidding and competing to get that last 15,000 square feet in his building at $750 a foot a month.
Oh my gosh.
So because he was the only guy, if you had bonded space at that point in time, you could name your price and people were paying it. Wow. He hit a lick on that. Yeah.
Wow.
So
holy shit. That's like office pricing.
Yeah, no, crazy numbers. But I mean,
supply when you demand, had
it,
baby.
When you had it, when the world was going crazy, when they erased the 321 and everybody was like, okay, we got to get out of these fulfillment centers in Mexico. We got to bring it into the States. Those guys were willing to pay whatever they had to pay, because when you eliminate the 321, it is now a negative situation for you to be in Mexico, right? You don't have that advantage anymore. And on top of that, like shipping from, like injecting it into San Diego to ship to New York only made sense if you got to avoid all of those. Yeah. If you got to avoid all of those, the tariffs and extra taxes and all those sort of things, because you were under that threshold.
Yeah.
But when they got rid of that, those guys were getting smoked. So It's been crazy. We had a wild. Our phones were ringing off the hooks there for a little bit of guys just going, "Get me out of Mexico! Get me out of Mexico! Help me find a 3PL." Brands like True Classic, which is a huge t-shirt apparel brand.
Yeah.
They landed with one of our clients called Stored. So there's a lot of moving parts, but some of those guys had long-term contracts with their fulfillment centers in Mexico. Well, then you can't just pull out on them. I mean, you have a contract in place with them and they just won't ship your stuff. So even though the government did this, you still are obligated to pay these people and to, you have minimums in your contract. So we got into a jam with some brands where we were just trying to help them solve these problems, but it happened so fast. It was all out of left field, and some of them took a big hit.
Oof. What have you done a deal in another country?
No, we've worked on some deals in Canada, and we've never gotten one to the finish line. Mm-hmm. But the process there for me is find a good SIOR broker and just like, hey man, we're going to do this together and I'm going to be a big part of this, but you're spearheading all of this, and then how we get it done. I don't know. I mean, how the conversion of money and all that sort of stuff goes. Like you just in that situation, we lean heavily on a local partner.
Yeah. That was another interesting thing in the Prologis deal. They talked about their cost of capital, and they secured like more debt financing through Canadian bonds, and their cost of capital is like 4.1%.
Oh wow!
Like it's
global liquidity markets, just shuffling the pieces.
Wow,
it was fascinating to learn more about how dynamic they can be with their balance sheet for how large they are. So,
what does the capital markets come into play with 3PLs at all? Do they think about that? Like, are they tracking the 5-year and the 10-year? Does that make any sense to them in any way, shape, or form? Or
not necessarily. I mean, we are looking every time before we do a deal. We're looking heavily into, who's the landlord? What are they going to do? Because if they're going to turn around and sell this building, then in a market like today, if it's a solid credit long-term lease, then I'm participating in the upside of that sale.
Yeah,
and otherwise, I'm not coming to your building, right? And then they're like, well, no, we're not going to do that. Okay, then we're going to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because if I know you're going to sell it, then it's inevitable that my taxes are going to go up. Mm-hmm. I don't care where you are. It's inevitable that at some point they're going to find out, and then my taxes are going up and I'm going to end up having to increase cost. So to offset that, I'm going to participate in the sale, or you're going to cap all these things. And they're like, well, we're definitely not going to cap those things. Like, okay, but we found plenty of guys that are sitting there going, all right. I've been sitting on it too long. I am going to sell it. I'll do it. Let's make it happen. And everybody wins because we sign a long-term solid lease, and these guys get to walk away from this asset they sat on and we're getting sweating bullets on, right? A bulky building that they were carrying too long. So,
well, that really comes into play when you're in a disclosure state.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's a real, we had a building in Oklahoma City we were looking at. I mean, loved the site. Big lumber company leased it, long-term lease. But they had capped property taxes with them. And Oklahoma's a disclosure state. And I think it was on the buildings on the tax rolls for like $1.5 million, and we were going to be paying like $9 million for it.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, so that's it's interesting when we start looking at other markets. It's like, okay, like we're looking at we're studying Nashville right now because we might. I think there's a good shot that we're going to have someone in Nashville to start looking at buying buildings.
Infill Nashville is solid.
Here's the deal. I was looking at a building, and it's So I think the big thing on our side, on the principal side of buying things, is like, what are my nets going to look like when this all happens, right? So I buy a building off a guy who's owned the building forever. It's a disclosure state. And, nets in the area call it are $2. Well, when this gets marked to market, maybe my nets go to like $275 and I'm blown out of the water on making a deal because I can't be the market. I can't even be at market. Right. So that's, we have one building right now that we're a little long in the tooth on, and really the big issue with it is I think the company that we bought it off of was from California. They bought it just as a work site for a construction job, and I think they gave two shits about filing the taxes. And we're damn near at what we paid, where the tax value is, and our nets are blowing our gross rent up.
Oof.
And so those are real. When you look at these situations, especially when you're going every state,
right?
Most states are disclosure states.
Have you looked in Denver?
No,
We're getting quotes right now in Denver where the triple nets are $8 a foot.
Oh my!
Jeez.
Why
is that property tax driven?
Yeah, $8.
Golly.
Like it's anywhere from $4.50, $5 a foot in just your triple net cost to $8. Craziest thing I've ever seen. And some of these are pretty big. I mean,
what are the base rents?
They're pushing $9, $10.
Oh man,
depending on the size.
Yeah.
But I mean, you start looking on a gross basis, you're paying. It's almost 50-50.
Yeah, that's
wow.
Whereas here, it's like feels like 70-30 is like a good balance. If you're at 10 net, your operating expenses are generally 3. That's like a good rounding number.
Like we think it's crazy when you get an OpEx number around here that's like $2.75 to $3. You're oh my gosh,
what's going on?
Denver, man. I don't know how they're even making deals. It must be cannabis driven. It has to be something related to I don't know why it baffles me that their taxes can be that high on all these buildings. I don't know how they make it work.
Wow.
Especially investors. How does an investor make that work?
Well, It just kind of comes back to if you've got a building that tenant blows out or you're buying it vacant and you're going to take that spec risk, you're looking at the market. And if you have any movement in your operating expenses, all of a sudden, that chunk rent gets all wonky. So
David Gwynn, chunk rent.
Yeah, it's like, I thought it was $100,000 gross annually.
Yeah.
Now it's dynamically different.
Yeah.
So it's very material.
What's the profile of the guy that is letting the tenant participate? Are they one-off developers, or is there some
merchant developers?
But any larger ones that they're
tried with some of the bigger guys, and they're just like, sit down, buddy.
That's cute.
Yeah,
you're cute. That's
I had
funny.
to try, all right?
You know more than the average guy. Good for you, but you can leave now.
Yeah. Well, it just depends. I mean, it's those conversations. A lot of those conversations were happening in the Cincy, Walton, Kentucky area.
Where the guys that found some money and found some land.
Yeah.
That's where those two things met. And then there you are.
Yeah. and we're also talking to guys who just are sitting on, permitted, ready to go, just haven't stuck a shovel in the ground, and talking to those guys too, going, all right, you can kick off this whole development. We'll be your anchor, but we want to participate. And they're open to that. So.
Yeah. I think they have to be. I mean, we do those things. Like when guys are like, hey, I want to buy a building. I'm like, okay, do you have the money? Not all of it. I'm like, okay, well, we can buy a building together and you can sign a lease, you know?
Yeah, that's the tough part, man. These guys want to buy I need 300,000 square feet and I want to buy it. I'm like, you got $40 million?
Yeah.
Or can you put down, 8? Yeah. And they're like, no, I could put down 3. I'm like, all right, well, we're going to have to go raise some money and go find a capital partner.
Yeah. But that's what a lot of 3PLs, they ultimately want to own, or?
I mean, man, they want to for sure. And, it's interesting. I've had more conversations recently with some of the best 3PL operators out there right now that are on the B2B side.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of this guy absolutely blew my mind with how he operates. But he for the last 75 years, they've been basically buying dirt and basically marketing heavily that they'll do these ground up developments for these manufacturers. So he just bolted on a 3PL to his development company. And so he's the landlord for all of his customers. So like he'll sign a 10-year lease with some, massive manufacturer, and he'll say, I'll build a 300,000 square foot building across the way, like right across the street, and I'll just be your 3PL too. So So now he's hitting them with the 3PL operation, and he's their landlord at the same time. And he's been doing that for so long. He's got 14 million square feet that he owns and is leased to long-term solid manufacturers. And he's got all of his 3PL operations right next to him, just running all of their B2B warehousing distribution. I'm like,
that's hot.
That is a lick right there. That guy's doing well for himself.
Does
cash flow king right there.
Man, well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of a great proposition though for the manufacturer, because when that lease renewal rolls in that 10 years and you're embedded in a building like that, that landlord's gonna be a little more sensitive to not just sticking it to you, because his livelihood is tied to you as well across the street. So it's kind of an interesting play.
It is, and he was very. He said, he goes, man, the relationships that I have with these guys is unbelievable. If you asked any of them who their best landlord is, they would say me, because I treat them like a client, not a, pay rent or I'm kicking you out. They're a client. We work together, and I just end up providing the real estate and the logistics services. And I just thought, man, this guy. He's got it figured out. Now, if you think about how would I go do that today, I mean, you got to have this is in the middle of nowhere in Ohio, right? Like this guy was buying dirt for nothing, right? And building buildings, and you try to do that starting in Dallas. I mean, there's just no way unless you have a heavy capital partner that's ready to go do that with you.
Yeah, you need long-term capital, or your balance sheet better be large.
Right.
So
prices today are a lot different than they were when that guy started doing that.
Are these buildings located in areas where goods are mainly produced versus consumed?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I mean, they're out in
little tertiary type market.
Toledo, Ohio.
Yeah.
Great manufacturing areas, but not like a great distribution market like a Dallas would be, right?
Yeah. And then so what about length of term right now on leases? What are tenants wanting, and what are landlords doing?
Tenants want as long as they can get right now.
Oh, because they feel the numbers are depressed. Okay.
Right. I mean, we're all kind of seeing the writing on the wall. Like right now, feels like we've been on this downslope, and we're kind of getting to the bottom. We're getting pretty close to the bottom. And then I think by Q1 of next year, I think we're going to start to make that climb again.
Yeah.
And so I'm just, telling all my guys, look, you got to take advantage of this while you got it. Go get a long-term lease and lock yourself in.
Y'all got like a shirt that says grow 10 years only.
Yeah. That's a great idea.
It's the marketing guy right here.
That's what our portfolio, we went to the iOS convention and I wore a shirt that said buy my iOS, and it had a QR code for the portfolio on it.
That's legendary.
People were sending me photos of them taking photos of people taking photos of the QR code. I was like, whoa, this is amazing.
Dude, that is hilarious.
Amazing.
No, but we are seeing a lot of short-term stuff too, because one of the things that's still flooding into this country is solar panels. So, those are big and bulky. You got to go sign a 300,000. We're working on one in Denver that's 400,000 square feet for 1 year, because it's a project out in Wyoming. So it's going to feed it into Denver, and then they're going to slowly bleed it up into Wyoming. They say it's going to be a year. I don't know how you build something like that in a year with the winters that they have in Wyoming.
Yeah.
I don't think they took that into account. So maybe a 2-year process, but we'll see.
Not enough feet on the street up there to push those panels.
No. And when that winter hits up there, I don't think you're going to be doing a whole lot.
Yeah, right.
Jim, you want to put these solar panels out there? Have you seen the snow on the ground?
Yeah.
Dude, my brother's in Montana right now. They got 2 feet of snow.
Oh, wow.
Up in Glacier.
It's
Can you
crazy.
believe that? That's what Christy was telling us yesterday. She didn't go, and she was like, I saw a picture of them on a boat. It looked miserable. They looked frozen. I was like, right now? Because it sucks down here.
Yeah. 105 outside. It's tough.
Well, what's on the horizon for Grow? Just adding, you gonna add some more people, you think, or you kind of built out, or?
I think we're still there's still a runway for a couple more guys.
Yeah.
But I don't think it needs to be any bigger than maybe a few more.
Yeah.
depending on how things go, I mean, we really started making a strong push into working with manufacturers and retailers because these guys are, they have their own real estate portfolios, and then they use, 10 different 3PLs around the country, right? So we just did a big deal in Pittsburgh with a company called Harvest Hill. They manufacture like Sunny D and, a lot of different beverage brands that they all kind of own. And they use a lot of 3PLs, but we renewed their 350,000 foot lease in Pittsburgh, and now working with them in Minnesota and some other markets for some of their own real estate. And then up in Pennsylvania, helping them decide, hey, should we bring in a 3PL to just take this building over because we're not utilizing all the space? We still have a lot of term left on this lease.
Yeah.
So helping them bring in some 3PL providers to evaluate there, to try to make sense of what to do with this obligation they have on a lease where they're not utilizing all of it. So it's created a really cool new value proposition for us because, now we're really able to help these guys make sound decisions on their supply chain. And what's funny is as the companies get bigger, they have a real estate department. They have a supply chain department. They don't talk to each other.
Wow.
So they have no idea what each other's doing. They just it goes through a chain of command, and then the real estate guy goes, okay, I need to go do this. But he doesn't know why. He just got told by, through a chain of command, but he also doesn't know what the options for the company could be because they don't communicate. Well, now we can come in and say, hey guys, maybe it makes sense for us to use a 3PL in the Pacific Northwest because it's not a big enough market. So let's give back that building, move it to this 3PL for flexibility, and then let's set up a bigger operation in Kansas City for yourself, right? Because you can ship everywhere around the country from Kansas City or Dallas. And then if you really got to be in the Northeast, then let's use a 3PL up there for now, and then maybe we take a small space, but just kind of helping them organize and work together instead of, just being in their own silos and just making terrible decisions. Because what ends up happening is they get handed off to a local broker in Seattle, right? And they think they're going to need 300,000 square feet in 5 years. They go sign 300,000 square feet, but they're only using 150. And then they go, okay, let's just sublease the other half of this building until we need it. Yeah. Which, okay, maybe you can make the case that sounds like a good idea. But what I hear is that local broker convinced you to do that because he's going to make a $300,000 fee, 300,000 square foot fee, and then he's going to get to sublease half the space, and he's going to make 2 fees. So you just made him a lot of money, right? So that's why I think he gives you that advice, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But to me, I feel like it makes a lot more sense for us to take maybe 175, 200,000, and then here are 9 3PLs around you that if you needed flexible space and you started to outgrow this, let's put the slower moving stuff over with these 3PLs and you pay for what you use, right? And then when that lease is up, we can go move it. But instead of just carrying all this space and then trying to play landlord, there's no reason for you to do that. The only reason that somebody would tell you to do that is so they can make 2 fees. I'm not in that business. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make sure that you have the right building, the right size, to make sure your supply chain is as lean as possible and you're not spending unnecessary dollars. So they end up loving that conversation and they're like, okay, well, so who are the 3PL providers up here? Start making some introductions. We start having some conversations. And it just creates a ton of value for these retailers and manufacturers because now they're going, man, I don't have to work with Ryder everywhere because I've just assumed that Ryder is everywhere. I don't have to work with GXO. I can work with Brad Dean, who owns Dean Warehouse, right? I can work with Jeff Updike, who owns Updike Distribution, who I would have never found Googling, right? These are family businesses. They're great operators and they're right next to you.
Yeah.
So, we can make a move from having to use the big guys and having to take big buildings and just wasting a ton of money and go dial in that supply chain and really refine those dollars and make sure you're not wasting anything. So
have you ever seen, so I've heard landlords say this, but I don't think I've ever seen it executed because they always come back with this, but say Prologis, be like, hey, we need to tear this lease up and move to a larger footprint. Have you ever executed that? Because what always happens,
it's a joke, man.
It's a joke, and because they go, oh, well, that's in Fund 2, and we can't move you to Fund 3, and blah blah blah, and you're like, you corporate mother,
right? So it's not that big a deal for some of these operators where their rent is just a tiny, tiny, tiny piece of what they do. Because they're fine if the rent goes up. It's just, I just need more space.
Yeah.
But in my world,
that's the
3PLs, right? What you're paying on your building is everything, right? That affects everything in your P&L, because if you don't have that as low as you could possibly get it, then you're not going to be as profitable as you need to be, because you're directly reselling that space, right?
Yeah.
So when you try to go do that, Prologis goes, okay, well, there's $1.5 million still in unamortized, or of amortized costs that are still built into the back half of this lease. So we're going to have to, this fund has to buy that out.
Yeah.
Right. So now your TI on this other building is already that $1.5 million. And then, you need some dock packages and some office and stuff for us to build out. So now your TI package over here is just extremely inflated.
Yeah.
And it's just rolled into your rent over here. And then market probably went up over that time. So they're going to hit you with market rate and increase TI. And you're going to look at, doubling your real estate cost to go take more space. And you're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. It should go down, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
In that case.
Yeah.
Now, in today's world, it's a little bit different. I mean, I do think you'd see the landlords be a little bit more receptive to that, because they want occupancy is all they care about, right? And if you're in 200,000, you want 400,000, like they're going to figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah.
But that's just how it's gone in the past. You got to buy the costs from this building and roll it over here, and it ends up not penciling out.
Yeah. I've never seen it. I've seen it sold on the front end, and then the back end when you said, when the math plays out, it's like, oh, well, that wasn't really an option.
Yeah. It makes the tenants go, oh man, perfect. All right. So they're the biggest in the world. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I can grow within their portfolio. Sweet. You can, but it does just depend on the dynamics of the market at that point in time. Mm-hmm. And if it is actually in the same fund, it is a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But if it's not in the same fund, and sometimes Prologis can have 9 buildings in the same area, and these 2 are in this fund, and the ones right across the street from each other somehow aren't, but and then you get in a jam. So
yeah. Well, it's a lot of knowledge.
Dropping it.
What do you got, Will? You look at you just like...
I'm just absorbing. It's really impressive. I think I met you 6 years ago, and it's just like right when you started, and like just the volume of information you've got. And then knowing you personally, like what you do in your personal life, just moving and the kids. And I'm like, how do you... Like I was telling him before we got in here, like, man, like the volume of real estate coming through here is like ridiculous.
Yeah.
This dude is doing probably 2x what we do on like so that kudos to you, man. That's just really awesome to see.
Man, I appreciate you saying that. It's fun. I'm just, we're out in the market every day, just wheeling and dealing, trying to, at the end of the day, what we care about is our clients growing their P&L. I want to make them as much money as I can make them, because if they're growing, then we're growing, right?
Yeah.
So that the way that comes into play is when I get you the best real estate deal you could possibly get on a building, right? Your costs are lower than your competitors, right? Because you're using Grow. And then on top of that, I just brought you a 90,000 square foot customer who's going to be, add $6 million to your top line. Okay. So now I just had a huge impact on the success of your company, because we got you the lowest cost on real estate you could have and brought you some great customers. So at the end of the day, it just creates such a powerful partnership that's so hard to break that you can cold call any of my clients and I'd be, it'd be funny.
Yeah.
Because they're just like, dude, I know you're, maybe you're good at real estate, but like this guy's directly impacted my P&L. My company would not be where it is today without my involvement with Grow and their team.
Yeah.
And when you have that level of value, man, that's what makes it so fun, because it creates a true partnership. I'm not participating in an RFP to try to win somebody's business, right? I'm going in and I'm just telling them, this is what I do. This is how we do it. And this is why we're the best for this specific niche. We're an inch wide. We're a mile deep, man. And if it's outside of this, it's really not for us, right? But you're right in the wheelhouse. And they go, okay, well, then we dive into what makes you better, and we talk about some of those things. And, if I got to participate in an RFP, it's like,
what are we doing?
Yeah, it's like, then as soon as that contract's up, you got to go back through the RFP process. I want guys that are going to, show up at my wedding when I get married, right? Because we're that close and our families know each other and we're flying out and going to dinners and that kind of thing. That's why we sort of fit really, really well in that mid-market, growth-minded 3PL space.
Yeah.
We've helped a lot of guys sell their businesses now. You know what I mean? Like we've been able to sort of come in, help them grow rapidly, and then bring the capital to come in and buy them, private equity firm or a larger company.
Mm-hmm.
And those have been a lot of fun to watch these guys actually be able to cash out on all the hard work they've done and know that you had such a big impact on their success. And at the end of the day, you know, it worked out really well for both of us because they were taking space and taking space and taking space, right? So that's that beautiful win-win-win-win-win scenario all the way around. And then the brand's calling us going, dude, we have the best 3PL in the world. Thank you so much. I never would have found this guy, right? So you've got so many different pieces of the puzzle that are all excited about it when it all goes together, right?
Yeah.
And it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, right? That's why it's a long process to make all these things happen. But when you step back and you walk a building where you know you got them a home run, you got 400 people in there that have a job providing for their families because you got them a great deal on the building right here, and you brought them some of these customers, and you helped them source their material handling equipment, and then you got them 6 resumes to find a general manager who then brought some of these people to the table. The 3PLs are like, dude, I don't even know what to say. Like, this has just been thrown together, and you've done so many more things outside of your job description to help us grow.
Yeah.
Which is where you drop that's why we named the company Grow.
Why we named the company.
That's what we do, baby.
That's right. Yeah.
We just go to work. I wake up every morning with a passion for helping these guys grow their business, and in return, it grows ours and creates a great partnership. So,
you know, that's the we're kind of working on some things here. I call it we're moving into Matador 2.0, and I'm not going to disclose on here the things we're doing, but very like the cross selling of what you're doing is something we're kind of working on really having in our company too, and it's a very similar value proposition. So it's exciting hearing you talk about that because I'm watching you've executed that, and so it's just exciting for me to hear you talk about that because we're working on some things like that here that are really exciting.
Zig Ziglar said a long time ago, man, you help enough people get what they want, then you'll get what you want. And, you know, I kind of took that to heart and was like, all right, well, how do I go to work and how do I just serve people and help them grow their business? Because then in return, they're going to be needing bigger buildings. It's all it really came. It's not rocket science. It's just, man, sometimes you got to throw the gloves off and do stuff outside of your job description to go help somebody do what needs to be done, right?
Yeah.
Get your hands dirty to go help that guy get to the level he needs to get to. And in return, it's going to require more real estate to go do those things.
That's right.
I'm incentivized. I'm ready. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And you know, it's funny. This is an interesting thing because some of the big shops, they do all this fee sharing. Like it's like a normal, like they're all fee sharing with some of their large tenants.
Sure.
The rebate.
Right.
Yes.
And so I have a really hard time with that, man. That really rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, I'm sure you get that.
And it rubs me the wrong way because like I'm pitching a 3PL and they go, oh, we work with JLL. And we have a long agreement with them, and they get to manage our real estate in every market. And but we have a fee sharing part of that agreement. And I go, and so you're going to have to do that if you want our business. I go, man, I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm not interested in fee sharing.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that because I know how good I am at what I can do for your business. I know the impact that I can have on your business, right? And when you're going to use JLL. And let's say you're going to go sign a 10-year lease and you get 6 months free, I'm going to get 14, right? You're going to get $650 a foot, I'm going to get $510.
Yeah.
That's a deal that did happen, JLL versus us. Buildings right next to each other, 500,000 feet. And, you know, I called the guy, was telling him, man, you know, he told me to pound sand, JLL, yada, yada, yada. You know, it's his brother-in-law or somebody in his family that works with him. I'm like, look, I understand that piece, but you know, at the end of the day, if we can go get you that level of a deal, right? I shouldn't have to fee share with you because I created so much value that you couldn't get anywhere else. And bringing you customers for free, You don't even pay me when I bring you a huge customer either.
Yeah.
So when somebody tells me I got a fee share with them, I just say, look, guys, I value myself and my business and my time way more than that. This isn't just a transaction. This is a partnership.
Yeah.
And when I bring you business and don't ask for anything in return, right, where you could pay me a commission and I'm not asking for that, you're not going to come and ask me for fee sharing on the money that I feed my family with because I earn that money. So, but it's hard to compete with because, sometimes people just look at dollars as dollars and they don't understand the value of what kind of partnership you could have with us. So we don't win some of those because they want the fee sharing. And those guys, they're not going to get anywhere close to the deals my clients are going to get because they chose to go the JLL or CB or Cushman route. So
it's just a misalignment of like what your values are at the core of it.
Yeah.
Right. Like you've got your values, here they are, and it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
So that's a very similar story to how I won the children's account. So I had called on the children's real estate director because they lease a building over on Medical District, and we were selling Motor Circle at the time, and I was just like, hey, look at buying this, And he goes, well, we're working our renewal over there. I go, well, you got to let me work that renewal, He's like, oh, well, we have JLL handling it. I go, just curious, what's your rate at? He told me. He told me about a building they were. This is before they leased it, and I had a competing tenant working on it, and the Rob Franks is going to hate all this JLL bashing. No, but
oops.
Yeah, sorry, Rob. Not Rob's side.
It's the firm.
This firm. No, but so I go in there and I'm like, well, what are you getting on it? And at the time, I think it was like $550 a foot. I go, I just got this proposal from that landlord. It's at $495. I go, why do you think you're paying more? Because your children's, or because your broker's not? I go, this is my submarket. They know they can't give me no bullshit rate around here.
Right.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's tough to pry people out of this global platform. But sometimes too, when you're that large, it's like you might just need to have your own real estate team, or like I don't know, because you just what do you get out of it? Do you get account managers? Or do you get real estate people? That's kind of what I see is like, but it's the same situation. Like I guarantee you those landlords know when JLL's repping that 3PL, it's like, okay, we're going to make
you're going to land in this little window.
Yeah.
We're going to start here. They're going to come here. We're going to land here.
Yeah.
Like the Reno deal we just did, the guy goes, okay, we had 9 buildings we were looking at. We got proposals on 5 of them.
Mm-hmm. And
Reno's one of these real small markets. There's 4 guys that kind of just run Reno.
Yeah.
And they basically were like, you could tell they all banded together and said, all right, this out of market guy, we're just, this is the rate we're going to give him.
Mm-hmm.
And so, look, we're a 3PL, right? These guys they need a West Coast operation.
Yeah.
So we just said, all right, we're going to go to Salt Lake City. I mean, this is absurd. None of these are going to work. So we're going to jump over to Salt Lake City because it's just a West Coast operation. So it doesn't have to be in Reno.
Yeah.
And one of the guys calls us back. He goes, hey, can you take 180,000 square feet? Because we were looking for like 140, 150.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, we could take a little bit more, but it just depends on the deal. He goes, well, how about 18 months free? I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
Hold, please.
Right. And so we start diving into it a little bit. We go back, we run the numbers and we're like, yeah, we're taking more space, but with that kind of free rent and that level of added cash flow and the room that we have to grow, when we fill it all up, like this now stopped the whole process. We locked in and we got the deal done.
Yeah.
But I mean, sometimes you gotta just go, look, we're you gotta just have your guy looking at another market. And when they know that they're about to lose a tenant out of their market.
Yeah.
Their small market, and they're going to lose a tenant out of it. That's only going to hurt those guys, right? So they ain't going to let it leave.
No.
So they came back to the table, and we ended up getting an absolute home run for this guy. and brought him a huge customer to fill it up, right? So he's just shocked.
That's awesome.
Day one, fill it up.
That's awesome.
So that's a lot of cash flow for a lot of months.
That's great. That's great. I love, like, dude, like when I got in the business, we were just like gashing people on tenant rep. And then for a while there, it just got like, hey, tenant, I know, I get it. I know they're going up 100%, but this is the deal. It's like, and they're like, what are you doing here? Like, what kind of, but now you feel like you can really provide some value again on that side of the business.
It's a great time to be in the market as a tenant for sure.
It is.
I don't think it's going to last long though. I mean, I think we're at the end of that rope. I think we're about to start turning the corner when we get past some of this craziness out in the world and get some of these trade deals figured out. And at the IWLA conference this year, they had an economist come in who's like really focused on supply chain. Yeah. And I mean, just listening to him dive in, he's in DC, like he knows, all sort of the things that are going on. And he was talking a lot about that too. He was like, man, we're at the bottom of the curve.
We're in the valley right now.
You're going to start see it pick up a little bit, and then it's going to go. And it's kind of another snapback after, we had COVID and then it crashed. And then we've kind of wavered a little bit. And now it's going to start kind of getting steady. Hopefully it's going to get steady and go back to what it was before all the COVID stuff, where it's just a nice, steady demand increase. Yeah. So that way we can get back to a stable environment.
So we should go lease a 300,000 foot warehouse in the Inland Empire and sit on it and then sublet.
Yeah, go get, if you go at least 300,000 square feet in the Inland Empire and get 12 months free, probably be in a pretty good spot in about a year.
That'd be an interesting bet.
I take that. That'd be a hell of a gamble for sure.
We thought about creating an LLC called We Take Bets.
That's hilarious.
You throw it on the side of the building. We Take Bets LLC. Yeah. Big old neon light with a big old.
Could you imagine would be walking in the door?
People be like, "What?" And it's like we're all up here in like button downs and like khakis. They're like, I thought this was a gambling operation.
No, it's like Shark Tank. Pitch us.
Give us something.
That's hilarious.
Well, man, thanks for coming in today. That was awesome. That was a lot of knowledge, a lot of good catch up on what's going on nationwide, market wise. So
man. Thanks for having me on. I always love catching up with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I got one more thing for you. What's your prediction on the Red Raiders schedule?
Big 12 champs, baby.
Big 12 champs.
Big 12 champs.
College football playoffs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Joey McGuire, animal.
He's awesome.
Barron. He's going to be throwing darts this year.
Yep.
The guy's got weapons. Got weapons on defense. You're not going to want to see the Red Raiders this year. You don't want to see them.
We're real.
Oh, yeah.
We're real.
At their football resort that they have now.
So we're going there this afternoon. I haven't seen it yet, but Devin and I we're fixing to catch a flight to Lubbock, and we're going to go. I have Devin's toured the facilities, but I haven't seen them yet. So I'm pretty excited.
Have you ever you've been to Vegas, right?
Yeah.
You ever I don't even know how to describe this. Just the level of service and high quality, literally every detail of everything you could possibly see.
It's all done there.
That's it. That's it, dude. Just like the sickest resort you could think of.
Yeah.
It's that and more for somebody who's playing football at Texas Tech.
Yeah.
I mean, down to the video room where they just are watching. I mean, they have screens from floor to ceiling watching. I mean, it looks like NASA.
Yeah. I'm excited. I was texting Devin this morning. I go, you think we can work out there tomorrow morning? Because I bet we can.
1,000%. Joey McGuire, dude, he loves bringing former players back and getting you involved and letting you kind of do stuff around there. And he wants the players to know you.
Yeah.
Which is super. I love that, man. He's so welcoming.
I took Dylan, we went to practice one morning, and he just like ran me down and was like, hey, talking to me, and and then like we were leaving and he ran us down again to say bye.
Yeah.
It's that guy's awesome.
Yeah.
So we're so fortunate to have him. So
absolutely, man. That's why Big 12 champs, you heard it here first.
Let's go. Go.
I'm already flying to Vegas, putting that one down on the line.
Nice.
Big 12th chance, baby.
I'm in. Well, we'll add your input to our conference previews. We're fixing to start doing conference previews on Shop Talk so we can get our football gambling bets going. So.
Oh man, I love that. I'm in on that for sure. I'll be watching that one.
Yeah. So, well, Summitt Hogue, everybody. Thanks, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yep.